Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want. Thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Ulysse Nardin Marine Acqua Perpetual 42.5 millimeters in stainless steel. This early 2000 limited edition of 500 marked the evolution of a significant Ulysse Nardin innovation. Between 1996 and 1999, Ulysse Nardin debuted a series of extraordinary perpetual calendar watches featuring the remarkable facility of total adjustment of all functions via a single crown. And in the early 2000s, they upgraded that fundamental complication with all of the hallmarks of a modern dive watch. So you could have complication, but also have versatility. That one watch to do it all, that was the Marine Acqua Perpetual. And this example, the 500 unit limited edition, features an extraordinary combination of a guillocheted and lacquered dial and bezel, a sort of dive watch with flinque treatment. It's also a perpetual calendar. Why? Well, that's a little bit of a cerebral question, and let's address it in a moment after we go over fit and feel. Now, the watch features a robust deployant clasp featuring my favorite, a twin trigger release for utmost security. On the wrist, it wears true to size. It has rather large, thick lugs. The watch wears roughly like a 43 millimeter sports watch, but you can see because the lugs are thick but short, it doesn't actually overhang the wrist. You can see in this profile shot that it's quite nicely encompassed by the two boundaries of my wrist. My wrist is 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters for reference, fairly flat across the top, a pretty standard oval cross section, a little bit below average in size. You could easily wear this watch down to maybe a 5 3/4 inch wrist circumference with total comfort and total security. Now the watch is a little bit weighty, as a dive watch should be, but it's not heavy. And significantly, because this is a robust and very substantial bracelet and clasp, it's nicely counterweighted top to bottom. One of the reasons that a lot of folks prefer a bracelet on a dive watch, in addition to the no worries versatility of being able to plunge it into water at any time, is that the bracelet with its metal mass nicely counterweights and counterbalances the heavy watch head unit. On a strap, it looks the business, but unless it's really cinched down, sometimes there can be a little bit of a top-heavy tendency, a little bit of a tendency to capsize. Not so with the Marine Acqua Perpetual that you see right here. Now, the watch also features an extraordinary bezel, framing an extraordinary dial. When I talk about the fit, I've got to transition directly to the look, because before we can even talk about the signature complication, we have to talk about what sets this model apart from every other Ulysse Nardin Marine and Perpetual reference, and that's the extraordinary rich blue lacquer dial with corresponding treatment on the bezel. Now, it's complex, it has depth, it has luster, it has vivid and intoxicating beauty, and all of that comes from the combination of a dial base that's first cut on a rose lathe, a traditional 19th century instrument used to remove metal from the basic dial disc, and then on top of that complex engraved pattern, and if you can't see it in my phone, our high-resolution online images on our website Watch You Want show this to good effect. But that first engraved layer, which is considered an art form in its own right, is then covered with a thick, rich gloss enamel. Blue, I would say it's almost a cobalt in color, very much like the caseback screws on a Swiss movement. If you've seen the blued screws on a movement, if you can imagine a translucent version of that, evocative of the sea, of Ulysse Nardin's heritage as a manufacturer of marine chronometers, and this is a chronometer watch. It's simultaneously consonant with that heritage of seafaring and the modern manufacturer aesthetic of the blued screws, of the blued hardware of a modern handmade Swiss mechanical watch movement. So I like that duality, and of course I love the look of it. In the light, it explodes. From any angle, it's got a different facet to show. Because the metal underneath the lacquer will catch the light at different angles, moving it through the light does extraordinary things to show this to good effect, and I can't give you the full effect on the iPhone, but definitely check out those photos. Whoever's fortunate enough to own this watch is going to be able to look at one of the most extraordinary and original treatments of a dive watch dial in the last 20 years. I do want to talk about the movement because it's an exceptional one. Based on the ETA 2892A2, the movement is automatic winding, chronometer certified, very robust with a 42-hour power reserve. Ulysse Nardin calls this one the caliber 33. It does feature a perpetual calendar, and the combination of the perpetual calendar and the dive watch might be a little bit counterintuitive. After all, do you really need to know the day, date, and the year at 200 meters? And this is a 200-meter resistant watch. Well, the reality is it's a little bit of a cerebral and subtle connection. Today, really, since the onset of the mechanical watch renaissance of the 1980s to present, the image of the dive watch as a mark of distinction, a luxury item, a totem of prestige, has become almost universal. You absolutely wear a dive watch with a suit, but you also still wear it in the pool, you still wear it at the beach, you still wear it to the tailgate. So in that sense, it's become the watch that is perpetually on your wrist. Hence the combination of that everyday complication, something you can reference every single day, utility whether writing a letter or an email, and the dive watch aesthetic and the dive watch versatility. Therefore, we have the Ulysse Nardin Marine Acqua Perpetual Calendar Dive Watch. Individually numbered on its flanks, the watch features a beautiful display back where you can see that Ulysse Nardin chronometer caliber, a gorgeous lacquered winding rotor. You can also see circular Côte de Genève on the bridges. There is a perlage pattern below the balance. So below the balance, I can't really show it to effect on the iPhone, but the base plate of the movement is actually machine turned with a gorgeous perlage, and you can see some of those cobalt screws I was talking about. Heat blued, not chemically treated. These are the real deal. Gorgeous to examine under a loupe. This is a movement that really rewards repeat viewing. It's an absolute treat, and it represents one of the masterpieces of Ulysse Nardin's watchmaking genius, Ludwig Oxlin, now working out of his own manufacture in Lucerne. During the 1980s, 90s, and really through the late 2000s, he was the mastermind behind complications like the Jacquemart striking watches, the Trilogy of Time, the Perpetuals, the Perpetual GMT plus minuses. He was the master of achieving more with less, and there's always an elegant simplicity and an ingenious logic to the way his complications are laid out. And that's why this watch is completely controllable, all functions of the perpetual calendar, as well as the time setting, through the single crown. The most user-friendly of all perpetual calendars, it can be set forward and backward. It's a rare watch, and since it bowed in the early 2000s, it's become something of an icon of Ulysse Nardin. Coveted, highly sought, and invariably treasured by collectors of the brand, it's also an outstanding addition for those who collect dive watches generally. A memorable combination of an incredible aesthetic with an outstanding rendition of a modern dive watch, and one of the most fascinating takes on the perpetual calendar in modern high horology, the Ulysse Nardin Marine Acqua Perpetual 42.5 millimeters in stainless steel is available from Watch You Want. We have comprehensive factory equipment with this one, including a second accessory strap to complement the bracelet, as well as all original factory manuals, documents of provenance. We even have the original COSC certificate, and yes, we tested it. It's still keeping COSC spec time to the tune of 1 second per day. If all of that sounds good to you, then this watch can be yours, yes, in perpetuity, at our website, Watch You Want.